Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming, and I'm back again, or is it again? Anyway, yes, I am back making videos again. Apologies for not being around for the last few months. After the last return, crap happened. Let's put it that way. Really didn't feel like making videos and playing games, so I've been out of the circle for a while. And recently, though, last few months, I've been trying to get over to Thailand, spend some extended time there, but that's going to take a little month or so before that's ready. And I've been mucking around with From the Depths, and I've got a machine all ready now to go to Thailand with me, so I'll be able to continue making videos and doing From the Depths even when I'm over there. So that's cool. So anyway, I thought I'd get back into the flow. There is a few issues I've got with From the Depths. Some are good things and some are bad things. One problem, and it's going to limit how I'm going to be doing some of the videos, is when building, if I bring my screen on, I run a Linux, and I'm running a Linux Steam OS build, and when I'm in build mode, you'll see that obviously I've got the pointer with the block, but normally there's no mouse except where there's the big Q and the hand in the center. Now your game mouse is supposed to stay at that point, but if I move over to the side, can you see how that's highlighting the elements on the right hand side? And if I move over the other way, eventually, there we go, you can see how it's highlighting the buttons on the left hand side. That shouldn't happen. That means that whilst I'm doing something and I click a button, it opened the inventory. Now what this means is, as I'm building, occasionally there we see a block got built, occasionally silly things happen. I get a flood field, the mirror line changes, something comes up. Anyway, it does give me a problem whilst building, so I'm gonna have to take that into account, and it's a reason why I can't do streams, and I have to. It takes me a little while to do the builds, and sometimes things muck up. Number one shout out here is to the mod builder that originally made the undo function and autosaves, because which is now part of the standard game, but I believe they were a mod originally, because without that I would have given up a long time. But the fact that I can undo something when it flood fills a complete ship, oh, that's really annoying. Or another problem I get is occasionally the whole system will crash, which is annoying, as you can imagine as well. And so that I can go to the autosaves and just reload the ship at whatever stage it was at, give or take a few minutes. So I'm okay to work through that, but I won't be doing any build videos because it's a bit problematic. Certainly wouldn't do any streaming with that. But what I would like to do is get back into doing sort of historical ships, and I thought an adventure mode would be better than campaign, but adventure mode without building an adventure, apart from the odd little change, is mainly going to be loading in ships from the designer as a Royal Navy fleet, and I'd like to look at the welcoming some ships of the Royal Navy. So that's the plan. So first of all, we'll have a look at the ships and then my idea. So let me just bring in the Royal Navy starting fleet that I would bring in at the beginning couple of phases of the adventure mode. So first of all, I'm actually on one of what I'm the Royal Navy merchantman, which will go into each of the ships separately, but this is a minor version. I've got an armed version of the ship here and a totally unarmed one, and what they will be is these will be like the core of the fleet that I've got to defend, and all resources will be held on one of these ships. These are maybe the way to mine, and these will be the way I go and collect resources from various places, and they will have extensive resource capacity, and I'll be able to upgrade them as I go along. The actual fleet itself of ships this is the Royal Navy fleet going from, you know, I've got a nice little battleship here, all the way up to a, you know, oh, that's worth a screenshot, isn't it? All the way up, and so we're going to have some small starter ships just to get us going, and then coming up into a little corvette, and then into some sloops, nice little destroyer, a cruiser, and then onto the old big battleship. But couple of the key things that I want to look at is, I wanted to do this last time I started. I know that the Hertzmeister did do a fleet style of of adventure, and that was what I was originally thinking of doing as well. But I'm going to do it with sort of semi-historical ships. So these are all based upon real-world ships. So a couple of other little bits I'm going to add is, I'm going to limit the ships. All of these ships have the Heartstones, and the larger ones have the teleport device. I'm going to look at some of them, put cameras. Some of them have cameras for a little control center usage. And the basic idea is going to be that some ships will be escort or defensive fleet ships, and they stay around the merchants and they just attack and defend the merchants, and some will be offensive ships that go out and hunt down detected enemy vessels, whilst the minor ships are basically getting resources and building new ships. With the resources, all of these ships will be limited to, at the moment I've set it at 50%. 50% of the actual ship size is the maximum number of resources each of these ships will hold. So most of the resources will be held by the merchantmen. If you think that's a bit high, 50%, because that's all their fuel, ammo reserves and everything in 50%. That's not just, you know, so it's not that much when you think about it for a long-term engagement, but we'll see. So that's the plan, and this is like, will be like the, I say, easy couple of first phases in here, bring a fleet in using these ones, and then I'm going to upgrade the ships, so they'll each be either upgradable or replaced with ships which are in keeping with further increases in the Royal Navy. So I have got like post-war, I've built some post-war ships ready as well, but you know, it's going to take me a little time to build a full post-war fleet. Anyway, comments on that, because it sounds like fun. I liked the Hertzmeister's fleet engagement. Obviously he was using totally his own ships. I'm using replicas. One thing on the ship replicas, although the ship looks like without using mimics, I don't use mimics. I can't be bothered to use mimics. I use sort of standard blocks. I love the ships that do use the mimics, that are absolute copies. I just haven't got the time and patience to work with it, and also the artisticness. I'm better at taking something basic and reworking it, so they look like the basic ship. The weapons, though, are going to be sort of based on the loadout, but I'm going to change them. Silly things that ahistorical, anti-missile, anti-torpedo. From the depth ships, assume that you don't have limitations. So I'm going to be up against missiles, torpedoes, lasers, you name it, they're coming after me. And I basically, you know, that won't be able to work if that is the situation. Totally. So these will be increased somewhat, you know, shall we say. You know, they'll have slightly better weapons, missile defences, etc., which are ahistorical for the period. But I think that's fair, considering it is a game after all. Artistic license. Anyway, comments on that. That's it. There is one other section, because I haven't forgotten about the Kasierliche Marina, and I have a thought for that. Now this might be a secondary after, maybe occasionally, or as an alternative to the adventure mode, or whilst I'm building up a new fleet for adventure mode, do some campaign play with the Kasierliche Marina. But one problem I had was, and first of all, let me bring in some ships. So one of the problems I had with the original Kasierliche Marina is pre-dreadnoughts and pre-World War I ships. If I stay, again, too historically correct with weapons especially, they were getting outpaced even by the Deepwater Guard, because they do have flying ships and they have missiles and torpedoes and all that sort of thing. So again, I'm going to build these ships, and this was the Scharnhorst armored cruiser that I built. I did actually video the completion of the build, and it failed on me. Basically it corrupted, so I wasn't able to post it, but this is the finished ship. But the weapons are going to be tweaked somewhat. This is the original version, but then I've got an updated version which has some anti-missiles turrets on it and some anti-torpedo interceptors, etc. So it's a little bit more, what should we say, in keeping with what will work in the campaign. But my other thought was to move on from the Zeppelins. I like the idea of the Zeppelins, but they were not practical, just doing a basic Zeppelin design. But to move on from the Deepwater Guard, what if old von Zeppelin found super helium and was able to make ships which basically with helium were able to fly? So this is like a flying destroyer, and it's a little difficult with small ships, but this is an example of a destroyer which has been made to fly. The rotors do not provide any upward force, it is all helium based. And up here we have a cruiser. Now this cruiser is actually a scout cruiser, but it's based upon the Blitz cruiser of just pre-World War One, as far as the guns go. So the gun numbers and types are roughly in sort of similar to what would have been on the Kasierliche Marina. So this would be a von Zeppelin version of the cruiser, and there's no rotors holding this up. This is purely all helium controlled on the height. You'll see, so there's no rotors except for on the back and the side, which are not active at the moment, so it's holding its height purely with this new super helium. There is limits as to how armoured you can get. There's limits to how much helium will take up, but yeah, I quite like the idea. Now, so these aren't they're not really historical. They're sort of my take on historical ships sort of thing, if that hopefully makes sense. I'm not trying to be a totally historical with these, but the guns, the propulsion, it's going to be very steampunk, because we're going to have a lot of steam control in these. Some of them actually, and also because there's updates, I've prepared these to have steam wheels. So they're actually, the propellers are actually connected to a steam engine here. So they will actually be, if they put propellers as an object that can be done by a wheel or something, that would be great. And even these ones here have a wheel, because if you can join them up to a steam engine maybe here to drive them, that's a thought I've got, just to have a bit of fun with a steampunky type of drive system for the aircraft. If that becomes what is you know, in the game and viable, I think that could be interesting, to say the least. Anyway, again, what do you think about that? Kasierliche, so basically with something like this, I could convert, so it's got all the same guns, but it's flying. It'd have the same sort of number of funnels, masts not quite so much, but basically it'd be upside down, obviously. I would say obviously, but you know, my thought is to not make a flying ship, but to make something which shoots downwards in general. So the big guns would be on the bottom, but as I've got here, some of the guns are on the top and some are on the bottom or on the sides. But basically you can see the basic layout is you've got your blimp gas bag in the center, which is not really protected, and then an armored layer around the side and underneath, so it's like the gas is held in a pocket. That's the design premise, which sort of makes sense in my head. If you were actually really going to do this, you'd have to armor the gas bag, and this would be the way to do it, with obviously a lot of light alloy. But I have made a battleship which has got some heavy metal on it, not heavy armor, that's a little too heavy, but one or two thicknesses of heavy metal, metal, normal metal, not alloy. So it's potentially possible to make a battleship that flies. Anyway, I'm prevaricating, I'm going on. Let me get back to the miner, and then we'll have a where am I? I'm obviously not on the miner. Where am I? There we go. Right, let's press that. Right, so what do you think about the plans? Adventure mode, and as I say, hopefully I will be able to continue doing videos. The next videos actually I'm going to do will be on the Royal Navy fleet. What I'm going to be doing is a lot of the historical ones, so you get a little bit of history and a little bit of a build and a link to the ship on the workshop. So that will be the next stage. So I will introduce all of the Royal Navy ships one at a time on a video, and then before, prior to them going into the adventure mode. So you'll see in a pre-video what's going into adventure mode. But unless we do the whole fleet at this stage, and then once we've got to a stage where these fleets are not enough, I will do another fleet version 2, shall we say. Anyway, that's the plan. I like the fact that, just as a general thing, From Adepts is getting lots of updates. That is great to see. It shows that there's lots of development work. That had caused me a lot of problems, a lot of ships had to be reworked, let's put it that way. And there's still some work with the steam, with linking these drive wheels together, and I'm sure there's going to be other changes that come along over the next few months, but I'm just stick with the stable build for the moment, and we'll have to rework it as it comes along, as long as there's nothing that breaks the game. I think they're down to the stage where now it's tweaking rather than any breakages, but let's fingers crossed and let's see. Anyway, as always, let's hope we can keep playing the game and have fun.